there was a land that sat by the sea, and in this land there was a rich man who was known locally as the Marquis. Now, this title was something that he kind of gave himself, but no one really disputed it because, again, of his riches, and he also employed many people around about the town. What was his whole name? Well, he was called himself the Marquis Don Marquixote. Now, this also tipped off people that he probably didn't actually have this title because Marquis Don isn't really a title that real people have unless they give it to themselves and don't really know what they're talking about. And this was certainly the case with Marquixote. Marquixote, though, as we said, he had been employing a number of people in the town. Now, most of these people who he employed in order to bring him collectible items, rare riches, things that no one, at least that he knew, had ever seen before. One thing he did have and was able to produce is he was able to make astrolabes to help these people explore. And that was really the real thing that made him money in a normal way, besides getting these collections, is he was able to make astrolabes. Now, mind you, he didn't really know how to use one, but he could manufacture them very well and in such a pristine state that they were well sought after and highly expensive. And this was one of the ways that he had made his money originally. Now, one day when he was getting older, he decided, I've had enough of sitting here with my collection. I am going to go and explore myself. This struck two of his main, we could call them servants, employees maybe, as a bad idea. And who were these two servants? Well, one was Oiram, and the other was Peach. Oiram and Peach were skeptical, but they said to Marquixote, okay, well, let us get a crew together and we'll see what we can come up with. Where exactly are you trying to explore? And of course, he said, no, I'll just use my own regular contacts that I already used to get my goods. They will be my crew. I don't need any allies. And Oiram and Peach were like, okay, that's probably not a good idea. You don't really employ the most reputable people. I don't know if you know this, but many of them are kind of cut purses and smugglers. Some even are quite simple. Maybe even you might call them a fool. They just kind of get lucky. Others are, they just kind of go about as skirmishers, not quite full-scale warriors. You probably want some other people on this. He says, no, I don't. And they said, all right, fine. Well, where do you want to sail to? Because as we said, this was a seaside town. Marquixote looked at them with a quizzical look and said, why would I be sailing? I'm going exploring. And did I mention that I have a treasure map? And it says that we have to go into the woods. And it also says we're supposed to do it at night. Now, there was a vast forest behind the town that people didn't really travel through. So Oiram and Peach, needless to say, thought this was quite a bad idea. Nevertheless, Marquixote gathered up his people. He promised a lot of riches to these contracted explorers and scavengers that he employed at times. He gave them astrolabes. He also gave them some other things from his collection, some of which were not the best, but they didn't know that at the time. He just kind of randomly distributed things that had come to him. He hadn't really kept his collection very labeled or very well. So, he was like, well, this is either a lucky coin or it might be a cursed gold. And I think this one's a magic lamp. And, this worked well enough for all the smugglers and cut purses and skirmishers. They didn't really care. They were in it for themselves in the first place. Oiram and Peach were, again, a bit skeptical, but as they got supplies and started to gather their things to go into the forest, well, they got lost in the woods. Unremarkable ending for this group. But it wasn't a complete ending, because even though it looked dire, the group did not stick together, actually. You would have thought that they would have banded together and come up with something, but they did not. Instead, Oiram led some people one way. Peach led some people, tried to make plans with Marquixote. And they did eventually use those treasure maps to get to a secret cave. Marquixote insisted that the way that they were going to enter this cave was by offering this piece of gold, which he thought was really the best piece and would be the best one to offer. And of course, it turned out to be one of the cursed golds. So then when the secret cave was open, it was a cursed secret cave. So luckily for Peach, she was still holding on to one of the lucky coins that he had actually given, and that's what she hadn't been wanting to put in to the device in order to open the secret cave. But she was the only one who survived from that group, and so Peach managed to find her way out of the woods with her lucky coin. Now, what happened to Oiram and his folk? Well, Oiram, he also ran into a bit of trouble following a will-o-wisp, thinking that this would be the real way to the secret cave. Mind you now, these astrolabes that are so good for navigation were not really very useful in the forest because they couldn't see the sky or the sun. And again, this was at night also, if you recall. So yeah, not the best time to be exploring or finding things. So this will-o-wisp got them lost in the woods. Despite all of that, Oiram, when he was about to despair with his archers and cut purses and skirmishers that he had known casually as part of the part-time employees of Marquixote, well, turns out he left them to themselves. They all kind of splintered and went different ways. But he decided to follow the one they called the Fool. And he always seemed to get lucky. And in this case, that was something that they felt they really needed. In fact, the only reason the Fool had come on the expedition was Marquixote had said, well, I have lots of people who can do normal exploring and things, but a Fool can be lucky, and we need more of that if we need anything. Unfortunately for him, he was in Oiram's group that had gotten lost, so he was not able to help Marquixote avoid his fate. But he was able to, by happenstance and no planning whatsoever, lead Oiram back out to the town, where they met back up with Peach, and that's where the tale ends for today.